Sacramento Kings head coach Mike Brown said a few interesting things at Kings practice today, including Keegan Murray playing 2 through 4 and an explanation on KZ Okpala starting at the 4 in the preseason opener right here on Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all regular season and all off season. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports producer and reporter at ABC 10 News here in the California capital. I was at practice today. We snuck in at the very end where we saw the end of today's scrimmages, also the classic free throw or run drill that the Kings always end their practices with. We spoke with head coach Mike Brown, Keegan Murray, and KZ Okpala. You're going to hear from all three of them today on today's podcast. Also, Anthony Slater of The Athletic, who mainly covers the Warriors but also covers the Kings, he wrote a very good article about Dante Divincenzo and his path from the Milwaukee Bucks through the Kings to the Golden State Warriors. There's a few quotes in there where Dante talks about his time with the Sacramento Kings that are really interesting. Highly recommend you check out and read that article in its entirety, not just the Kings part. And I'll share with you at least one quote from the article. Don't want to steal everything from it. So you should go and support Slater's fantastic work, but we will touch on that as well. But being at practice today, going in, we got another glimpse at Kings scrimmages. And the first time we got a glimpse, which was Saturday, we saw the starters, including KZ Okpala which is the black team, versus the gray team, which ended up being that second unit of Davion Mitchell, Malik Monk, Keegan Murray, Trey Lyles, and Rashawn Holmes. Well, today we saw the gray team, that bench unit, taking on the third bench unit, or second bench unit, maybe third string, which was the purple team. And that was Matthew Dellavedova, Sam Merrill, Terrence Davis, Chimezie Metu, and Alex Len. Now, I don't think in the three or so possessions that we saw, I don't think anybody scored. We saw the tempo. You saw good defensive intensity, especially around the rim. There were some foul calls, and I believe instead of them actually shooting free throws, the foul, they just give you the points and move on to the next possession. But nothing I would say really significantly stood out of that group. Maybe if my hunch is correct and based off of what we saw in or with the rotations in the game against the Lakers, I think the purple group is, like I said, that third string, the second bench unit, meaning players 10 through 15. And if that's the case, it's interesting to see like Sam Merrill ahead of Kent Bazemore. It's interesting to see that Chima Maneke is not in that group, but Terrence Davis is in that group. It's interesting to see that Chimezie Metu and Alex Len are there and no sign of like Keon Ellis or Neemias Queta, which, by the way, I think these guys that I'm listing that weren't on the purple, gray, or black teams, they're wearing red jerseys, and you'll see them in the background if you're watching the footage of the scrimmage. But that was really the only takeaway that I had from this group. Again, like I talked about on yesterday's podcast, the post-game podcast after the Kings beat the Lakers, I'm not the biggest fan of that bench unit, that gray bench unit of Mitchell, Monk, Murray, Lyles, and Holmes. And offensively, how they looked and how they can look, maybe it'll improve a little bit over time. And it seems like, based off of practice, Mike Brown is going to continue to give them time to work together and improve together. But as you're going to hear from head coach Mike Brown here coming up, he does talk about why he started KZ Okpala, but he mentions that can change at any time. Based off of practice today, from what limited things that we saw, it looks like as of now, the plan is to go into Sunday's game against the Portland Trailblazers, game 2 of the preseason. Sounds like the plan is to go into that game with the same rough idea of units, the same starting 5, the same bench 5, and now the third string bench 5. We'll have to wait and see if that holds up throughout the remainder of the week. Again, this is just the final of, I'm sure, plenty of scrimmages that actually took place at practice today. So there could have been other matchups. There could have been other combinations of lineups. We have no idea. We're just going off of what we saw. But based off of what we saw at the ending of Saturday's practice, that ended up being the main starting unit and the main bench unit. So I'm going to try and follow the breadcrumbs and connect the dots as best as I can here with this. But I mentioned the free throw drill that they ended practice with. De'Aaron Fox started it off, hit both of his free throws, which is great to see. Then after De'Aaron Fox, I don't quite remember who it is. I'm actually going to scrub through the footage here and take a look at it. After it was Terrence Davis. He hit both free throws. Then Domantas Sabonis hits his first, has an opportunity to end practice with his second. It rims out. The whole team runs. Then Harrison Barnes steps up, misses his first immediately. Whole team runs. Then Kevin Huerter drains both. Sam Merrill steps to the line, drains both. And finally, Davion Mitchell, who hit both free throws to end practice on Saturday, hits both of them again to end practice and to send everybody to the locker rooms. I have no idea if they're doing a 2-a-day practice today. It didn't sound like it. It looked like that was just their only practice. Now they're doing individual work and film work and things like that as they prepare for Sunday. But now that's pretty much enough for what I saw. I do want to respond to some of the things that you're going to hear from Mike Brown, and also hear from Keegan Murray and KZ Okpala. So why don't we hear from them first? We'll start with Keegan Murray, who was the star against the Los Angeles Lakers on Monday. And Keegan just talks about his experience playing in his first somewhat real NBA game.
Yeah, it was a good experience just to play against someone else other than ourselves in practice. So I thought we played well as a team and have things to work on, which is always good, things to improve on. So I think the sky's the limit for us. Just looking at the film from that game.
What was it like for you to be out there, on the floor with guys like LeBron, AD, Russ?
Yeah, it's what I look forward to. Just coming to the NBA, playing against the best of the best, future Hall of Famers. So for me, it's fun to compete against them. I'm excited to compete against a lot of guys in the league this year.
25 assists, 7 turnovers for a team that has 10 new guys. Was that a point of emphasis, taking care of the basketball, and was that a message after the game?
Yeah, a big thing for us is sharing the ball. We have a lot of guys that can shoot and things like that. So just flowing into our offense, distributing the ball that way, I think is a big key for us. And we did well the other night. So, what if anything surprised you about playing against other NBA talent? I know you played summer league, but obviously playing against high caliber talent. Is there anything that surprised you? Yeah, I wouldn't say surprised me. I'd just say just getting the experience helps a lot. Just playing against bigger guys, guys that have been around the league for a while. They know kind of the little things, offensively, defensively. So it's just staying on your toes all the time is the biggest thing for me right now.
Keegan, do you think your passing skills are underrated? You might be able to have a little bit more than what you were able to show at the college level?
Yeah, I think that's something I've been working on, just being able to distribute the ball in different ways, playing off pick and rolls and things like that is something that I really didn't do in college. In college, I was kind of give myself a basket and things like that, catch and shoot. So that's kind of been a big point of emphasis for me in the offseason.
We've seen you at the three quite a bit. What would you estimate your reps in practice have been the three versus the four?
It's been a little bit of both, just depends on the day. So they're just putting me in different spots, seeing what I'm good at, what I need work in. So I feel like I'm getting reps at both spots pretty evenly. So for me, it's just going out and just trying to figure it out.
You think you're going to play at both spots as you move forward?
It just depends on the lineup. Depends on the lineup we have on the floor, who we're playing against. So there's a lot of variables that factor into that. I'm up for whatever.
How critical can you be of your performance in that game when most people think that probably wasn't about as good as it could be?
Yeah, I had a lot of spots, especially defensively and offensively, that I need to work on. Different reads that I missed offensively, rotating defensively, and things like that. So it's a bunch of little things that the coaches have talked to me about and I need to improve on. So I think it's a learning experience for me.
Did they ask you to do anything specifically, or do you take to try and do anything specifically differently when you're playing the three compared to the four, or is it the same approach?
It's just the same approach. Play hard, play my game, don't do anything out of my comfort zone, anything that I normally do. So everything I do on the court, I know I'm good at, and that's kind of just been a big emphasis for me defensively and offensively.
Do you see a big difference defensively guarding threes versus guarding fours, or is it pretty similar?
I mean, the four spot, the guys are bigger, so it's just being more physical and things like that. I mean, the threes in the league are tall, long, lanky, can get to the basket, shoot threes. So, I mean, it's a different approach guarding on the perimeter than if you're playing against a more physical, bigger guy. So I just It just depends who I'm guarding, really, is how I'm going to play.
You have several days before the next preseason game. Is there collectively something you guys are putting more emphasis on than others that might be different from the previous one?
I think it's just keeping the defensive intensity, staying up into guys and things like that. We had a good practice today, just moving the ball offensively, sharing the ball, getting open looks, hitting the easy pass, things like that. So we did a lot of good things in the game. We're just trying to carry it over throughout the season.
Any thoughts on starting versus coming off the bench?
I mean, if I do my job on the court, everything else will take care of itself. So for me, KZ has been playing really well. And he's a great defender. So I know that I need to learn right now, and that's a big thing for me. And just do my job on the court, and everything else will take care of itself.
But you said that you were expecting some sloppiness, but 25 assists to 7 turnovers. Did that even surprise you a little bit? How well they played?
Yeah, how well we took care of the ball. I was surprised with that for sure. We had some sloppiness in our execution offensively and defensively. That, in my opinion, was good because when I went back and actually watched the tape, and I'm sure the Lakers feel the same thing. So this is no disrespect because they're where we're trying to get, but we have room to grow. We could play better than what we played on both sides of the ball.
You mentioned you wanted to try and get all 20 guys in. You were able to do that, but
right.
The field goal distribution looked pretty good. Was that a message for everybody to get their touches, or is that just how it worked out?
No, that's just how it works out. We don't care who scores, just like we don't care who gives the idea. Hey, let's give our flowers to the next open person. You know what I'm saying? If somebody's open, go ahead. And if you open, let them. I'm about to curse. I can't curse.
You can.
Well, it's not really curse. It's just words. I say it a lot, but let it fly.
We've seen KZ starting in that first game. Is that something we're going to see going forward? And just how do you assess it?
I just, I'm watching how the group plays. What I like about KZ is he's a guy that knows he's got to defend. He's got to take the best player. He's got to run. He's got to offensive rebound. He's got to do all the little things to free up some of our other guys for doing what they do. He's got to cut. And I thought, he had some cuts that led to some easy buckets for himself and for his teammates. He got out and ran in transition. I thought he got in the mix in the offensive rebound. So he's got to keep trying to do that at a high level in order for me to continue to take a look at it. But I could easily start somebody else there right now, So
we've seen Keegan at the.
That you had that you started at the third quarter. They had 42. They finished with 42 points, and I think they had an 18-2 run. Was that something that you talked to them about? Getting you guys off to a good start in that second half, compared to the first half.
Yeah. What I liked about that, it started with Davion, and defensively, Davion's the head of the snake with the second unit. Fox is the head of the snake with the first unit. And Davion got up into the ball. There was ball pressure. He got an easy deflection just from the ball pressure. We got out and we ran. But when you look at that second group, there's a lot of scoring, a lot of shooting at the second group, and Keegan, he can let it go in that second group, and that's what he did. That's where he scored the bulk of his points, playing with those guys, because he's one of those types of guys to be able to go get a bucket. And they shared the ball, they moved the ball, and it was a lot of fun to watch. But like I said, it all started with Davion's defensive intensity. Everybody followed behind him.
Mike, we're seeing Keegan at the 3 actually quite a bit. How much in practice, what percentage of his reps are at the 3 versus the 4?
So really, our 2, 3, and 4 are all the same. For sure, it's more about can we match up defensively. Like Keegan, in my opinion, can probably play the 2, 3, or 4. So his versatility on both sides of the ball is a lot of fun to see, especially with how poised he is for a young guy.
Is he more effective defensively at 1 or 2 of those spots versus?
I haven't figured that out yet, but in the summer league he guarded some 2s. Obviously he's guarded 3s and 4s, so we'll see as we go along.
Does your strategy, the way you approach maybe Sunday's preseason games, differ from the one that you just came through in terms of just similar manpower?
Oh, you mean coming this Sunday?
Yeah,
it's going to be different. Yeah, we won't play all 20 this Sunday. At most we'll play 15, maybe anywhere from 13 to 15 guys. Our starters will probably play into the second half.
You talk about poise with Keegan. Is it surprising to you that he just looks so comfortable at every level that he steps on the court?
Yes, because I think I'm more nervous for him than he is. But he doesn't show it at all if he is. Surprising.
How much of a welcome sight was that to you to see yourself in that starting?
It's always a great honor to start, So it was a blessing for sure.
Were you pleased with the results that you had in that game?
It wasn't trying to go swing for home runs. You know what I mean? Coach keeps talking about singles, hitting singles, so that's what I was out there doing.
What do you think was the biggest takeaway for you as you try to take another step forward going into the next game? What do you feel like is the biggest area of improvement for you?
You know what I mean? Just timing, just learning Sabonis, his passing skills and whatnot. You know what I mean?
Because you were a good scorer in college, but you really haven't had that opportunity to score. Like, can you have a lot more to show than when you've been able to so far?
I mean, I know I can. You know what I mean? I've proven it in the NBA too. A couple games where, you know what I mean, it's just hitting singles, I can score. You know what I mean? Catch and shoot. You know what I mean? I missed 2 threes in the Laker game, so with those 2 threes, you know what I mean?
As someone who's known for their defense, how do you look at just the progress this team is making defensively, even without you?
It's just holding everybody accountable. You know what I mean? It's just everybody, you know, film. Every day we watch film, so you know what I mean. If it's not highlighted in the game, you know what I mean, it's gonna be everything you see on film. So the next day you're gonna see it.
Has the coaches given you any indication whether things are going to stay this way?
No, and I'm not worried about that whatsoever.
Who else impresses you defensively in this group?
Say that again?
Who else in this group is impressing you with what they're doing defensively?
I just think all the bigs, Davion and Fox, I think for sure the way they can slide, that intensity. Obviously, personally, I love that shit. Guys who can really slide and just really get under the ball, sit on a chair. So, yeah.
Today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by PrizePicks. That's right. The #1 way to play daily fantasy sports is back here, sponsoring Locked On Kings for another season here. Thank you, PrizePicks. Welcome back. And if you're not sure what PrizePicks is or how it works, essentially you pick 2 to 5 players, and if they go and score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 10 times of your money on any entry. No competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections. PrizePicks offers projections on any sport that you could possibly watch. That includes NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL, PGA, college football, men's college basketball, women's college basketball, soccer, WNBA, esports, NASCAR, tennis, MMA, boxing, disc golf, Euro basketball, cricket, and more. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. They offer safe and legitimately fast withdrawals and currently are operational in over 30 states and in Canada. Go and download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50. Don't forget to enter promo code Locked On at sign up for instant deposit match up to $100. Couple things there. First, the last answer that Keegan gave when he was asked by Jason Anderson of the Sacramento Bee about starting versus coming off the bench, maybe the best answer that Keegan could come up with. Just a very composed, smooth, I think is what Deuce Mason was saying there at practice. He thinks like Keegan's just really smooth with his answers and with his demeanor. But about the best way that you could handle questions like that as a rookie, saying, I have to learn, gave some praise to KZ Okpala and how good he is defensively, says, I'm just going to control what I can control. And if I handle my business on the floor, things will work out. So, I mean, I love Keegan Murray's approach to it. I believe Keegan should be starting. You know that of me. And I think there are a lot of people that feel the same way that I do, that Keegan Murray should be starting. And I'm sure Keegan wants to start. I'm sure that's in his mind. That's on his goal list of goals, but he has the absolute 100% correct approach to it. And not to fire shots, but compare that to the Team Bagley approach of my son should be starting. My son should be this. My son should be that. Marvin Bagley should be this. Marvin Bagley should be that. It's a very refreshing approach from a extremely mature rookie in Keegan Murray. Also, did you catch Mike Brown saying that he thinks Keegan could play the 2 through the 4? I don't quite know if I believe Keegan Murray at the 2 would really be that effective unless you're going up against a really big lineup. Now, I know Keegan's long. He has decent foot speed. It could be better, which is the concern for him guarding 3s. So I don't think he has the foot speed that he needs to guard 2s at this level, but I mean, Mike Brown, again, knows more about basketball than I do, so maybe he's seen some glimpses. I have a good feeling we won't be seeing Keegan Murray playing the 2 at any point during preseason, but if we do, it'll certainly be interesting to pay attention to at the very least. And then KZ Okpala, he's not really one a man of many words, not exactly the guy that's going to go into a lot of detail about what he's seeing and what he's doing and what he's experiencing. But the thing I liked most out of KZ Okpala, what he had to say there at the end, which was he was asked about starting and if he's been told that he's going to continue to start at least on Sunday against the Portland Trailblazers, and he said, "No, I have not been told that, and I'm not worried about that at this point." So I just like the approach from Keegan, KZ, Mike Brown. I like what I'm seeing. It's consistent. It's a good, consistent culture that the Sacramento Kings are starting to build and that we've seen so far in the last week and some change in practice. So I am happy to see that, and we'll probably have some more questions answered come Sunday against Portland. For those of you who have been with me through the entire offseason since the end of last season, you know that I was a bit surprised, or at least I operated this offseason with the expectation that Dante Divincenzo was going to be a Sacramento King this year. The Kings tried to trade for him when they tried a Bogdan Bogdanovic sign and trade years ago that failed. Then they were able to trade for him as part of the Marvin Bagley trade at last year's trade deadline. And my expectation was, hey, Dante Divincenzo could be the starting two, but is definitely going to be someone to keep an eye on as a consistent part of the Kings rotation who theoretically could help the Kings improve defensively. Well, the Kings over the offseason, they declined the qualifying offer or issuing the qualifying offer to Dante Divincenzo, allowing him to become an unrestricted free agent. At that time, I had no idea what the Kings were doing. I have no idea why they made that decision. I was not happy with that decision. Well, we found out that the Kings had other plans. They went out and signed Malik Monk, went and traded for Kevin Huerter, and suddenly Dante Divincenzo was a thing of the past, right? Well, we're not the only ones who are surprised that Divincenzo did not remain a Sacramento King. Even with the reports and rumors that Divincenzo's camp was not happy with the Kings for how they handled his playing time at the end of last season, theoretically to drive his value down during the offseason so he'd be easier to retain, Dante Divincenzo himself was apparently surprised that he was not brought back by the Sacramento Kings. Anthony Slater from The Athletic wrote a great article just detailing Divincenzo's journey through the NBA, from his time with Milwaukee Bucks to the big injury that he dealt with and trying to battle back from that, being traded to the Kings and now going to the Golden State Warriors and really betting on himself in a lot of ways with that group. There's only a portion of this article that is about Divincenzo's time with Sacramento. And I'm not going to read everything because I want you to go and support the article and check out the article and support Slater's work because it's his, obviously, not mine. But a couple things that I wanted to read from this are a couple quotes from Divincenzo. One of the things he says is the Kings have this reputation with the playoff drought, this and that. People say things aren't how they're supposed to be there. I had a lot of great experiences. He also talked about, but I found, or quote, but I thought I found my home. Domantas Sabonis and I were always together talking about what we are going to build in the future. It was super fun. And then Divincenzo did talk about how he and his family were looking for houses, and he said he was full in on the Kings, and the Kings decided to go in a different direction, and he just live with that decision. So again, go and check out the full article. I would love to read you more quotes. There's so many great quotes really in that article of Divincenzo addressing his time with the Kings. But I thought it was interesting context. I don't think Divincenzo was going to come out and blatantly say, yeah, I didn't want to be there, or yeah, my camp wasn't happy with the Kings or anything like that. I believe him at his word when he said he was expecting to remain a Sacramento King, because I was expecting Divincenzo to remain a Sacramento King. But some interesting nuggets, an interesting read there this morning. Also, for those of you Kings fans who love DeMarcus Cousins, check out Chris Haynes' article. DeMarcus spoke with Chris Haynes in an exclusive interview about him trying to get back into the league. And DeMarcus, I think, shows a lot of character growth, talks about things that he's done wrong in his career and how he's handled situations the wrong way, and also the many ways that he's handled situations correctly and how he's just looking for his shot to get back into the league and to show what he has. And he's 32 years old, I think. Looks like he's in fantastic shape. And of course, he's a Sacramento Kings legend now. Every time I bring this up, I have to put the caveat in there that I don't think him coming back to the Sacramento Kings would be a good idea. I don't think him coming back to the Sacramento Kings would really help the Kings that much, nor would it really help him that much, in my opinion. I hope he gets an opportunity somewhere to continue his NBA career, but it doesn't necessarily have to be in Sacramento, although the narrative wise of him coming back to Sacramento and helping the Kings make the playoffs, I understand why that's appealing and pretty cool to some people. If you want to accomplish that, maybe do it in NBA 2K or something. I don't know. Coming up this week, still on Locked On Kings, Jason Ross from Sacktown Sports 1140, Sacramento Kings radio broadcaster, and the former host of this podcast. He will join me. We will talk about the decision of starting KZ Okpala. We'll also talk about rotations and closing lineups for the Sacramento Kings. Jason and I had a great conversation about that, so I hope you will join me for that. Thank you so much for your support. As always, here of the Locked On Kings podcast, just a reminder, we are doing still the Kings opening night ticket giveaway, October 19th, Kings versus Blazers. That's a Wednesday. I have lower bowl tickets, section 116, a pair of them to give away as a thank you for an excellent summer here, amazing summer, and for us accomplishing our review goals on Apple Podcasts this summer. All you have to do is go to my Twitter at @MattGeorgeSack, find the tweet that is posted in my profile. It'll show you a view of what the view of the court's going to be from your seat. Just respond to that tweet with a picture, a video, a favorite Kings memory, Kings story, whatever. Respond to that. A third party will be selecting the winner of that coming up probably in the October 10th to 15th range to get your tickets. And hopefully I can treat you to a Sacramento Kings home opener, especially if you haven't been to a home opener before. It's definitely a special atmosphere. I'm very much looking forward to that. Counting down the days to that. Also, counting down the days to Kings and Trailblazers, not the home opener, but Kings and Trailblazers, the preseason home opener coming on Sunday. And if you're going to that game, I will be there too. I would love to see you and chat with you inside the arena if you're going. So reach out to me and let me know what you think about that or if you're going to be there. Appreciate your support as always. Can't wait to have you join me on the next episode of Locked On Kings. Until then, my name is Matt George. You've been listening to the Locked On Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.